Hey guys, Carly here. I'm so excited to be with you, and I want to introduce you guys to Dawn. She is a fellow nomad. She's been out on the road for a few years now and has been doing a bunch of different things, and I'm super excited to jump in this interview with her. I've known Dawn for also a couple of years. We met at the 2019 RTR, and we've just been keeping up with each other ever since. She has a YouTube channel, and she did an interview with me recently. You can go check it out at The Dawn of Vanlife. And I wanted to return the favor with an interview of her. I also wanted to turn it into a podcast. So if you're interested in the podcast version, it's about 30 minutes long. Also, thank you guys for being here on my YouTube channel to listen to it. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm so excited, and I hope you guys are too. Hey Dawn, welcome to the Curious Carly podcast.
Hey, good, happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here too, that this worked out. So I wanted to ask you right off the bat, you're a nomad, and I wanted to know what kind of rig you have.
I have a 2005, Toyota Sienna minivan.
Awesome. How long have you been living in your Toyota Sienna?
I got the Sienna in October of 2018. But I've been living out of a car, a Toyota Avalon, for about 3 months before that.
Awesome. So you're kind of like a year and a half on the road, maybe more?
Yeah, I'm pushing into mark.
Nice. I know that you've stayed mostly on the West Coast, but where all have you been as a nomad?
Well, I'm in Oregon right now. I was in Vancouver for like a day. So, I'm pretty much, at this point, I've driven up and down for the West Coast. I was in Arizona, obviously, for RTR. Was that 2018 or 19? I'm confused. I feel like it was 2019, because I feel like it was, that January after 2018. So, yeah, because the past one would have been 2020. So, yeah, so I've been down to Arizona for RTR. I was in Slab City, because you were there. So I've basically, been up and down the West Coast. My goal is to drive east, but also I've spent a lot of time working. So, that's kept me sort of in sort of the Bay Area nexus a little bit. But I think that taught me to be a tourist in my own town. And I think there's a lot of places you end up going because you're living in the vehicle. There are parks I didn't know existed, and if I had, an apartment to go to, I probably never would have found them. So.
Yeah, exactly. And, what has been your favorite town and your favorite place that you've come across so far?
Oh, wow, that's hard.
I know. It's the worst question, but it's also the most interesting.
Yeah, it's hard because, there's just, these weird little places you find, and you didn't expect to find it. And so it's less about the town and more about, oh, here's this gorgeous park that I didn't know was here. Actually, right now, where I'm staying in Oregon, there's a park called Lithia Park that's not too far from me. And, I can walk to there from where I'm housed for the moment, my temporary housing. And the trails are just every time I go, I have a different experience. I'm I'm going to turn this way this time. I'm going to turn that way this time. And it's just really, really gorgeous. So I've actually really enjoyed Ashland in general. And just being in the Oregon area, it's been really pretty and beautiful. And I was only able to, do this because, pulling up my bootstraps and going to another state is not a big deal for me because my house has wheels,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let me know, or, let us all know about your jobs, because you've definitely been a part of the gig economy for a while. You really got into all the apps and different things that you could do, but your profession is in the theater business. And, tell us more about the kind of jobs you've been doing to afford to be on the road.
So I graduated with a degree in theater, which is a degree to be poor. But I was really passionate about my field, and I was keeping pushing on it. And Vanlife, in a way, was a way for me to afford pursuing my career.
Yeah.
Sorry, interference. Are we good?
No, we're good. We're good.
Sorry. And so, so being able to live cheaper in a vehicle actually afforded me the ability to pursue my career more so than anything else, because I was able to cheapen my cost of living and also say yes to anything that popped up anywhere. So that was kind of part of an intentional move, but it's a contract-to-contract position. So I basically work backstage. When there's a show, I get hired. I come on for a certain amount of time, and then that time will end. In a perfect world, your contracts overlap. So one thing ends and another thing starts. But because the world is imperfect, I had gaps where I needed to fill it in, and that's when I started doing like Uber and Winolo, and these are all gig economy apps you can look up. What else did I do? Amazon Flex, and one good thing about San Francisco is like a lot of tech companies start there. So there are a lot of small gig economy jobs that will have their test area right in the Bay Area. So when they first start up, they may not be nationwide, but they're right there in San Francisco. And so it's a nice way to make quick money in between or as a Band-Aid while you're figuring out what your next job or income is going to be. So that's sort of where the gig economy jobs have fallen in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and it's worked really well for you. Although, I mean, there's still times like you're monetized on YouTube as well, so you're able to make money there and maybe some other places online. But I know for YouTube, you get paid once a month, and some of these gig apps, you may not be able to make enough in like the week's time, for certain things. And you've had some moments where you've been really scraping by you have to stay parked and, eat whatever you have left in your van for a week before you can move on because you need parts or something for the van.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a hard thing about a lot of gig economy apps is a lot of the easiest ones to get depend on you having a working vehicle. Like delivery jobs are like a dime a dozen out there. You got Instacart, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and they're really easy to get. But the second your vehicle breaks, you can't make any money from doing that. So those moments can be difficult. And also like how do things pay? Oh, but one good one also is what's the pet walking one? WAG. I got sick of, and I got sick of working for them, but it's something you can do. If you can walk to where the dog is, it's at least something you can do that doesn't require you to actually necessarily have a movable vehicle. Those are good ones. But I think the trick is have as many as you can get, because you can sign up for them and always go back to them when you need them.
This is true.
So that's useful. But I'm also getting off the subject because it was about being static. But that's one of the good things about sort of living in a vehicle, because you control your cost of living. Like, obviously, moving a couple of blocks every couple of days so, people don't get sick of your van sitting there is going to cost you less. Like, if your car works but you're just, down to your last couple of dollars, you can move in little small bursts within the same zone so that you're not in the same place, but you're not spending a lot of money on gas because you're moving 2 blocks one way, and then you're moving 2 blocks another way, and then you're going over the ways a little bit, just so it looks like your car is moving or your van is moving. But at the same time, you've sort of lowered your costs because you're not trying to get from California to Texas. California to Texas obviously is going to cost you more than just staying in the same neighborhood for a while, trying to build up some funds and just moving a couple of blocks. But I also think that's where local friends can come in handy, because if you know people or you have connections with people, they might be like, hey, you can just park in my driveway for a couple of weeks while you're working this out. Obviously, don't ever take advantage of those people. So I think that's one of the good things about this lifestyle is you can adjust it when you need to,
Yeah, and with that, like, what has been your biggest challenge out on the road since you kind of started? Because I know you had, when you first started out on the road, it was because you couldn't handle your roommate in the apartment you were in, right? And
Yeah.
and you jumped out. You were like, I can live in my car.
Yeah, totally. And she was like on the verge of pushing me out anyway. So like it was just like it was time to go. The biggest challenge, honestly, is I always like to correct people when they talk about how cheap van life is. It is cheap by comparison to like mortgage or or rent in some areas if you have realistic expectations. But car repairs are expensive. Mm-hmm. And so, like, the hardest moments have been when, like, there was a big ticket item that needed to be taken care of, and I didn't have the money because I was living month to month. And those are the hardest moments because your car has wheels but can't move anywhere. I know you've experienced that with your van.
Yes, definitely.
That moment where the repair is beyond what you have is can be really scary, especially if you don't know for sure there's anybody you can reach out to for help. If you're not sure there's anywhere you can go, it can be really, really hard. And I think one of the most important things you can have is just some money in the bank that is completely dedicated to if I get stranded. And you don't even have to have a plan. You don't have to call it hotel money. You don't have to call it anything. But like, if I need to make a plan, there's money to make a plan with. And like, I think that's the most valuable thing to have, because the scariest thing is not the actual thing breaking. Vehicles break. It happens. It happens under the best situation, the worst situation, with new cars, with old cars, with cars somewhere in the middle. Like, it just happens. Shit happens. And if you have the money, it makes it a little easier to make decisions. Or at least you have some protection, like the right insurance, the right roadside assistance, because AAA isn't going to come get you in the middle of BLM land, So if you don't know that, and you're like, I have AAA, and then they're like, is it a main road? I'm not coming. Those securities, I think, are very important. Just to know loosely they're there, and that they're the right sort of securities for your situation, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely true. The having savings, having a maintenance fund, also realizing when you go and decide to make camp several miles off a dirt road that you're going to be calling in a favor from someone not some company in town. They're not going to come get you. So being prepared for the worst and knowing that it may never come, but it might. And I think camping with other people helps relieve that a lot. That's what got me through my van breaking down in the middle of the desert, was that I had somebody with me who had a working vehicle. And then, that my dad would be my mechanic and was willing to come down and help me, him and my mom. So when you're in your situation, when you break down in the middle of town, sometimes you get lucky and you're within a few blocks of somewhere that has food, or you're able to just live very minimally because you are right in town, until you can't afford to get the repairs done and what your next move is going to be. And then definitely reaching out to those friends that you've made in town and being like, please can I call in a favor? So,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, also not exploiting those friends, being there for them as well. The best currency is just a good vibe between you two. It's like, somebody says you can stay in their driveway, go stay for a little bit, do what you need to do, and then get out of there. And don't become like, just living on their driveway forever, even if they're being super nice about it.
Yeah, definitely fill out the situation and like ask them up front, like what does overstaying look like? Please, is it a day or is it a week? Let me know, and so that I can, get my stuff done accordingly. I know that you moved from a car into a minivan, and right now you're in some temporary housing, but with your minivan, is there anything you'd like to change with it? Are you saving up for something new?
I would like to get a larger van. I'm at that point. I looked into getting a pop top on the minivan, and there's a couple companies out there that do pop tops. Pop tops get old are not cheap, and at the mileage and age of my vehicle, it would make no sense just to add a pop top to it. Even if I could get a couple more years out of it, because I just feel like the expense is too much when I could put that money away towards a larger vehicle. But I have been working on my van. I switched out the bed. I built some new storage under the bed, and I actually rewired my solar system. That's been the good thing about the apartment is it's harder to do big projects on the van when you're living in it than when you are not. Like, I disconnected my solar system for a whole week because, like, I'm not using it for anything, so it wasn't that big of a deal, and it allowed me to pull sort of the back and reorganize it, which is much more difficult when you have to sleep in here that night, when you're worried about having your lights on that night, and you can work around these situations with that. That's been really, really nice. It's sort of making it feel new. It obviously it's the same van, but like the small upgrades and the changes and the reorganizing is making it feel like a new experience, because that's what it was about the bigger vehicle. So it's like I'm excited now to sort of like actually live in it in the new setup, which can feel as good as like getting a new vehicle, because I have paid off the van.
Ooh,
finally.
Good.
So actually literally owned it, which I haven't, because I've had a small payment on it since I got it, just because that was the only way I was getting a minivan. And so now I completely own it. So as much as I want a larger vehicle, and I have that fantasy of a larger vehicle in my brain, I'm also like, this is the perfect opportunity. It just got a new radiator. It just got a new water pump and timing belt not too long ago. It's running fine. There are no, like, if I can push, being free of a van payment for, another year or two, then that's money I can put away towards a dream vehicle. And at the same time, because I've reorganized the van, because I've, like, shifted things around, it feels like a new experience. And so I feel like I'm getting this fresh experience where I got to be in a quote-unquote home and sort of plan and build and then go back out there again.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm glad that you're, even though the job fell through because of COVID-19, your current contract fell through, they let you stay in that housing, and you've really capitalized on this time. And, and another thing that you've been working on is a weight loss journey, and I want you to, like, describe how that's been going.
I'm pretty happy with it. I've been, like, re-exploring how I eat, and I've been actively exercising. I've been going on walks. Again, I'm so grateful for that beautiful parking and walking distance, because I can just walk down there and, like, walk a beautiful trail. And sometimes I walk around the neighborhood, which is really fun, too, because even though the shops are closed, there are a lot of cute little, like, shops on Main Street. And the fun thing is, getting a little bit off subject, is that, people tend to separate city life and, like, boondocking life, like, your only two choices are, like, New York City and the middle of nowhere. And lovely little towns where you can have these very beautiful nature experiences and then end up on this cute little main street with a lot of cute little shops that are as fun to walk around and look at as anything else. Like, so often I see people getting into these two extremes, and I like little town life. I think it's really, really, like, cute. So it's nice to have a place where it's fun to walk around. And to the kitchen and cooking is really easy. And because especially I was doing city van life, a lot of times it was far too convenient to go to a pre-prepared food place and buy food.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm working on avoiding that as I transition back into the van. But I feel like I have like active plans for that. Exercise is not that big of a deal because there's always parks, there's always somewhere to go to walk. And I've been exercising outside anyway. I've never really been a gym person. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm walking on a treadmill. I could be walking somewhere, like, you know, where it's prettier and I'm not just seeing like 20 people around me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's fine. I did hurt my knee, so that's been sort of a setback, but it's been healing. I did a little trail walk yesterday. It was only like, I don't know, it was maybe less than a half hour. You know, I walked a certain amount of time in one direction and I turned around and came back. I bought me some trekking poles. And then I had to look up how you actually use trekking poles. Well, I wanted to make sure, like, my form was good and, like, I was using them in the most efficient way. So it's been good. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's been good. The big experiment is going to be transitioning back into the van so that I don't lose, like, my healthy habit. But I also think I've heard people say, oh, van life made me less healthy. Van life made me more healthy. No, you made you less healthy. You made you more healthy. Like,
exactly.
Outside of it, it's your choice. Like, you know.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. And there's just things you don't know about because you're changing your lifestyle. You don't know how, like you just said, it's hard to figure out how to cook food in a small space. So you're just like, okay, well, drive-thrus are also great.
Yeah.
But you can't do those forever and you're not always going to be around them. At some point, you got to figure out, like, what foods you can have. Because a lot of people, their diet is around a refrigerator. And not everybody has the opportunity to have a refrigerator in their vehicle. So that's definitely something I struggled with for a while, was trying to figure out how to make a cooler work for me and just like a dry food bin be all my meals. And sometimes it was good and sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes, you know, I needed to go to the store every other day to figure it out.
Yeah, and I would say for most people, like, even if you have the fridge, like, your storage situation is so much different. You usually just have less. Like, even if you have the fridge, you usually have far less space than you would in your standard, like, residential fridge. And so that really has to make you think, you know, how many perishable items can I reasonably have? And, like, what does that mean to how far I can be away from access to a store for how long? But I think these problem-solving things are good, and I think the people who enjoy van life enjoy the problem thing.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that.
The challenges, even when they're frustrating, are still a part of what makes it a more interesting life.
Yes, definitely. It definitely makes it more interesting, and the problem solving and the troubleshooting and waking up each day and it being different than the day before. I really enjoyed those parts of being on the road because I may be doing the same motions each day, but I might have a different scenery, or I might have a new obstacle that I need to figure out and overcome, or meeting up with new people, and so it's a completely different friend group. All those things could be different every single day, and I enjoyed that. It's always more fun though when you have less real problems, like mechanical stuff isn't fun.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like, one of the things people always stress about is the bathroom. I'm like, figuring out, you know, sort of what your bathroom situation is like way less stressful than, like, I don't know, a tree fell on my house. I'm trying to think of some extreme house situation, which happens, depending on where you live. And it's like figuring out sort of what your bathroom situation is going to be is also less stressful than figuring out, how to fix a vehicle you don't have money to repair. So the small day-to-day, like, where's the laundromat? Because you go into new towns, you don't know where the laundromat is. Like, you got to figure it out. You're going to ask somebody, you're going to look on Google, do you have a good cell signal? Like, all like.
Yeah, exactly. How are you going to find them? It's definitely difficult. But I wanted to ask you, what are your future plans? What are you thinking about doing? Your time at the temporary housing is coming close to an end?
Yes, I'll be out of here by June 1st. Because of the pandemic situation, I'm sort of holding off on any major plans until June 1st. Because I think, even though I see a lot of things where it's like, this thing is opening back up and the outlook looks good, I feel like it's really hard for me to plan because there's so much we don't know about what the world is going to be in the next couple of weeks. So I have a loose plan to go back to California just to, that's my home state. There's like little things I need to take care of, regarding my mailbox and some other stuff. And then giant question mark, there's an open window in front of me, and I'm asking myself which direction. I should say open door, not window, because you can climb out a window, but let's say, open door. That sounds better. And I really am at a crossroads of deciding which direction I want to go in. And so the honest answer is I'm not sure yet.
And that is totally good. I definitely have used that one many times. Well, and I wanted to see if you had any last, words for our listeners on if they're wanting to get into the van life. It's like really an interesting time right now, and people are wondering if more people are going to go into the van life because of COVID or less people. People who have been planning for a long time might think it is something that they should just give up on. But what would you say or give advice about?
I can still see people wanting to go into van life. I mean, it seems like there's been pictures from states where it's like, we open the beaches back up, but social distancing, and people aren't social distancing. So I do think there's like an energy to get out there. I think a lot of people are also more reluctant to give up home bases entirely. So I'm wondering how much we'll see a surge in sort of weekender style van life more so than like cut all ties van life, at least for the people who are voluntarily doing it and not like, I lost my job and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But for people who are voluntarily thinking about it and planning for it, I wonder how the perspective on a home base is going to change. And I've even seen a couple of people who were like on the road who are really keen on having a home base now, just because of how much COVID threw the world out of whack. And so the idea, if they kick me out of everywhere, I still have a place to go, I think is becoming more important to some people than it was before. But I think the other interesting thing, and my friend Cora said this, is that it'll be interesting to see how many people have the opportunity to get on the road for the people who kept their jobs. And their companies have realized, they can do this job just as efficiently at home as they can in the office. I wonder how much that will change sort of opportunities for people to explore lifestyles that can include more travel. Because that's a lot of the blockage for a lot of people, because it's like, you can either save up some savings and then go live on your savings for as long as you can. You can try to spot work where it's like, okay, I'll go to a town, I'll find like a job, I'll work for some time, I'll travel for some time. Or you can be, one of those lucky people who can work as long as they have an internet connection. And I wonder how much more that third group is going to open up leading to more people being able to either temporarily or full-time explore this as a lifestyle. And I think that is going to be a big change. Twitter already told all of their employees that if they never want to come back to the office to work and they can work from home, they don't ever have to come back. Like, Twitter already made that decision. So I just wonder how many other companies will follow suit.
Yeah, I agree. That definitely has been thrown around a lot, that the working from home is going to be a new normal, and it's going to have a lot bigger statistic than it did before in our, in America and probably across the world too, just to have, the opportunity to work from home has come, and it seems to be sticking. So, well, thank you so much, Dawn, for being on here with me. I want you to give us all your social media. Where can we find you online?
I am the Dawn of Vanlife on Instagram and YouTube. The is important. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
Thank you so much for being on here. I'm excited to see what happens for you come June 1st, where you end up. Thank you for being on here, and I'll catch you later.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye. And that's my interview with Dawn. I'm so glad you guys stayed with us through to the end. If you're interested in continuing with her story, please go check her out on her social media. We had a good time chatting about what she's been going through and what it's like to be a nomad. And Dawn has such great words of wisdom, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for being here, and stay tuned for another interview. I'm hoping to get some other people to do some interviews with me. If you are interested in doing an interview with me, please send me an email over at curiouscarly@gmail.com. I'd love to hear what your story is, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next podcast and or the next video. Bye.